Good evening, everyone. My name is Vinay Nair. I'm the co-founder and CEO of KhethiBuddy, a unified agtech SaaS platform which helps agribusinesses monitor, measure, and manage sustainability goals in agriculture. We welcome you all to this interesting webinar hosted by Think Ag and KhethiBuddy. Friends, climate change in agriculture is a topic often discussed these days. Agriculture is cause as well as the solution for many challenges which we face today in climate change. Frequent changes in climate has not only impacted farm productivity, but environment in general. Biotechnology or biologicals, as we call it, has become a credible option to not only solve some of these challenges in agriculture, but also enhance the overall quality of soil and lead us towards sustainable agricultural practices. Discuss on this topic of biologicals and tech more in detail, we have a very experienced panel today with decades of experience both in agriculture and biologicals from both private and public institutions. Let me first introduce you to Venki Ramchandran, who would be the moderator for this panel. While Venki needs no introduction in the Indian agtech space, by profession he is an agri-tech consultant working with agri-tech startups, investors, and agri-businesses across smallholding contexts in Southeast Asia, and Central America. He's an agri-tech analyst at Agribusiness Matters. He writes a weekly newsletter where he dwells in detail on several topics on agriculture. I thank Venki for agreeing to do this for us, and we all hope that you would come out richer on this topic of biologicals and tech by the end of this webinar. We'll have a discussion for, the panel discussion would go on for around 40-45 minutes, and towards the end, we'll actually take Q&A for 15 to 20 minutes. You can type in your questions in the chat panel and we'll take it towards the end. Thank you all for joining again, and over to you, Venki.
Thank you. Thank you, Vinay. Since we have about 45 minutes, I really want to delve deep into the conversation. I'm sure some of the people here, especially Dr. Venkatesh and need no introduction. So I'm going to skip, with all your permission, I'm going to skip the formality of introducing in a kind of a formal sense and get into the thick of the woods there. Today the impact of climate change on agriculture need not be elaborated. We had a wet March. And more than 4,000 acres of, in Telangana, more than 4,000 acres of various cultivations and other cultivation got disrupted. We are testing the limits of all our crop insurance schemes, and we are in very interesting times in the sense of climate change really toppling in some of our common assumptions that we used to have in our understanding about, in agronomy and various other aspects there. So I think the question here is, is largely in terms of where we are in largely in Indian context there. Right? If you see some of the data there, the soil organic carbon content has come down to about 0.3% in the last 70 years. That there's been enough data there. And at the same time, we are also seeing, if you see the recent ISRO's report, about 30% of the land is desertified based on their remote sensing survey that have been calculated. So the gravity of the situation is very dire, and therefore, the need to do some action on the ground and bring in alternatives, right? One of the things I often write about in agri-tech is oftentimes there are a lot of parallels in terms of what we do to our humans and then what we do to the plants, right? As much as there is a overuse of antibiotics among humans, there is also an equally, we tend to overuse chemicals, and there's been a sort of systematic sort of, malaise in the way we've been over exploiting the land, and now we are also seeing some of the impact which we saw in the numbers. So biologicals play a very important role in this kind of context, and we have a very, very interesting panel here of scientists and business entrepreneurs who are collaborating in solutions to see how do we take some of these solutions to the market. Because let's understand, the challenges here is in the case of biologicals, it's slightly more complex than some of the chemicals that we've used in the past. So in this context, just to make sure that, because I'm talking among scientists, I want to make sure that I bring in a small definition of what I mean by biological. Because today, even the term biologicals is a very wide spectrum term. It involves inputs, it involves genetics in terms of, selecting the crop varieties that are more, climate resistant and drought resistant. And at the same time, we also have the soil health there. So we are largely going to look at the soil health part component here of biologicals, and that will be the focus there. So, I want to start with Dr. Venkatesh. Dr. Venkatesh, in one of your, in interviews, I read that you almost started your career in 1979, when most of the focus on biologicals was very less known, and there were probably very few people who really understood also the science there. In kind of situation now from 1979 to 2023, when you look at the evolution of how the space has evolved, what are the learnings that you've seen that have surprised you about the market in which it has evolved?
Thank you, Venki. Thanks for giving opportunity for my views here. Am I audible in terms of sound? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's a nice looking back from 1979, joining crop protection industry, and now it's 42, 43 years. I'm in the same crop protection industry. Now, when we started off our career, I would say from 73, agricultural college, entering agricultural college, learning about NPK, government and fertilizer companies used to go to villages and show movies, how you have to use urea, how you have to use DAP. And then into crop spray was very interesting. If a person, while spraying a pesticide, if it doesn't fall down himself, it is not a good chemical. Knockdown should be on a man spraying himself first. So the news, itna acha chemical hai, good, gir gaya, I know, that means a good product. From that, we evolved same companies which used to take prestige in selling. Look, you've seen that surf ad, Mera kameez, tumhara kameez se white hai. So my poison is stronger than your poison. From that, we evolved over a period of time. Same company operators now talking integrated crop protection, integrated plant protection, soil health management, climate resilience. The whole world has changed so drastically from diagonally opposite direction today. And now it's very interesting when I look at our scenario. See, we are 1.4 billion people approximately. We have 14 million hectares of land, or 140 million hectares of land. Only 14 million families maintain this. 14 crore actual farmers own the land and do agriculture. These 40 crore farmers consume 33 million tons of urea. 33 million tons of urea. And land holding is coming down. So our whole focus initially was how to produce more and more. And all our technocrats, scientists, everybody was extremely they contributed from our begging bowl to today's surplus. Today we are the largest exporter of rice in the world. We are self-sufficient in everything except possibly oil. This progress is tremendous. We have made a fantastic progress. But while doing it, we have forgotten a little bit how we have to respect or how to recognize the soil status, where and how the soil traveled. We traveled well. The soil traveled like this. And you rightly pointed out our organic carbon is 0.3% today. At this rate, soil is becoming bankrupt. And if we continue to do this, be in this present scenario, our soil is going to be more bankrupt. And whatever we do by fertilizer, pesticide, any other means, the yield will not increase, either it might taper, plateau, and take. Therefore, soil health is the biggest casualty in the last 40, 50 years. We kept on focusing only on yield. We forgot the soil health, which is a very important format of future health of soil. Therefore, now the focus luckily is there from scientists, industry, and farmers. And let's not forget, today our farmers are more educated. And only 14 crore people, that's all. Only 14 crore number, actual number. See, multiplied by 4 people in the family, therefore 70 crore, so others dependent. So a story of 70% agriculture dependence, all hidden unemployment goes into that. The real decision makers are only 14 crores. And most of them are well connected by digital technology. They see Abe Memo survey. Today, this generation of farmers, they see more than 2 hours of news item in the channel of TV than entertainment. 20 years ago, 2 hours a day was entertainment and TV. Today, 2 hours a news item, whatever the public awareness item. Therefore, communicating to this generation is not as difficult as it used to be 30 years ago, 20 or to their fathers. Therefore, I feel this climate change or whatever has resulted in the soil health erosion is a very critical aspect to communicate to the farmers today who are young and educated. They're educated today. If you show a poster with a poor farmer looking at the sky with a parched land, he'll come and hit you today. What the hell you think I am? I'm not that old poor farmer. Give me respect. So we have to be careful in communicating. Look, you are right. You're educated. You're intelligent. Let both of us travel together to help the soil. This is what I feel the great change has happened over the last 40, 45 years.
Thank you. Which is an interesting segue to I want to bring to Dr. Richa here. Today, a large part of, Dr. Venkatesh was pointing out, right, in terms of the kind of ads we had and the kind of ways we looked at the traditional chemicals, right? And if you really look at it from a science perspective, these were largely crop nutrition paradigm that was very host-centric, right? In the sense that it didn't consider the entire microorganism or the microbiome that was there, right? And so now, when we are moving in from that kind of a host-centric, very, very reductionist kind of a paradigm to a paradigm that understands the microbiome and how they contribute to the soil health, how do you think this kind of transition could really happen, on the ground, right? Because you are also working on the science and also working with farmers, how do you think this transition is able to, like what Venkatesh is saying in terms of the communication, how do you think this transition from a paradigm perspective is being able to communicate it, sort of disseminated to farmers?
Yeah, so Dr. Venkatesh is extremely right. When he's saying that this change, the mindset of the farmer has changed. Maybe because you also these days we also find that the average age of a farmer, which used to be somewhere between 55-60, is now touching somewhere between 40-45 as well. You find young people getting into this, and young people, as Dr. Venkatesh has also already said, that they are more aware of stuff, they are more exposed to things as well. Of course, the smartphones and the internet access has made a huge difference any which ways. But I also feel I seriously feel being in this. Compared to Sir, obviously I'm young. I'm still not. He's a veteran, of course. But from my experience, I still feel that there is still a dearth of awareness, which needs to be filled in. There are pockets which wherein if you go to those farmers, they are like, I do have farmers who come to me with names of microbes. It's not just the concept of microbes. They're very much aware. Like a grape farmer would know what is a trichoderma and why it is used, or a Bacillus subtilis. And they know exactly what the mode of action is, when to use it, how to use it. But then there are other pockets, where we find that people are not even aware that biofertilizers or seed treatment is something which can make a huge difference to just not the soil health, but also their yield. This kind of an awareness is required. So I seriously feel that we need to, as stakeholders, whether it's the government or whether it's the corporates, we need to spend some time, energy into spreading this kind of an awareness as well. Now, if you see, World Bank, if you see 52% of World Bank funds for agriculture are for climate mitigation. Okay, but then we don't know how much of it will be utilized for awareness. But because unless the awareness comes in, and unless the awareness comes in, the farmer is not going to demand. Unless the demand comes in, we will not be able to get to the consumer and provide the product. So this demand generation has to be led by awareness. It will be led by awareness as well. By doing simple changes, like we have been doing soil testing reports. We have these soil testing reports where we get into the macronutrients, the micronutrients, and you get into the pH and the OC and the EC of soil as well. But why can't we have a microbial count as well? It's just a one parameter that you need to add. Why not? Once you add that one, what happens is the farmer knows that, okay, this is also one of the parameters that is impacting my yield in one way or the other. So this just leads to it can be a kind of an awareness medium as well. Second, I feel like, for this, when you're talking of transition, I think incentivizing the farmer is also very important. We are talking here about, a mindset change for a farmer. We are saying that, okay, whatever that we have been doing for 50, 60 years, we need to focus on some other things as well. So if you're telling that, you need to give some kind of an incentive, which I guess the government is also working on. Globally, people are working on a concept called carbon credits, So maybe that can also be one of, the incentives that the farmer looks forward to. And, but it has to be simplified. I mean, I have recently started, getting into this concept of carbon credits, but I find it too complicated. If you see, the auditors of this carbon credit ledgers, it's a very complicated system because it is coming from America or Europe. These auditors are from that place, and
there are
so
more buyers there.
Yeah,
More buyers than sellers there.
Yeah. So we need some Indianized systems here also. Because or else it will be. The conditions are very different. The climatic conditions are different. The land holding is different. So all these things have to set in, I guess. And of course, a couple of days ago, I read there is a company in US which takes rice from northern India, and they have certified it as regenerative organic rice. Okay, so if something like this comes into India, a farmer will get a better price, and he'll at least go and find out what is regenerative. So I think these are the few things that need to come in where, if you want to see a considerable transitioning, at a farmer's end as such.
Yeah, and I think it's a good, you're talking about transition, right? And I think that's where we need to also probably get into more of the trade-offs and, involved at an agronomy level. And I would love to bring in Mr. Vijay Kolekar here, who has been spearheading the World Bank project for a climate resilient agriculture. Mr. Vijay, I would love to hear your thoughts. I hope you're able to hear us, Mr. Vijay. Vijay, are you there?
Kolekar sir, you are on mute.
He's muted.
No, he's not. Okay.
He's muted. Better call him.
Maybe the admin could unmute him.
Let me just.
So yeah, I was just going
We'll
to
try to
say
get him online.
Or call him over phone is better, I think.
Yes. We'll try to get him online.
Yeah, I was just bringing up a question in terms of, when I looked at the Maharashtra's data in terms of the yield gap, right? Be it for cotton or sorghum or for soybean, there's a significant gap, yield gap when it comes to the other states there. So my question was more in terms of when you are looking at an agronomy for a specific state like Maharashtra, how do you balance yield gap and climate resilience? So that was a question I wanted to bring into Jay. Will probably wait, or maybe if either Dr. Richa or Dr. Venkatesh would like to come in and chime in with your answers, feel free to.
Yeah, so maybe I'll share my views, and then Venkatesh sir can also pitch in. I think we have Kolekar already. Sir, can you hear us?
No, he's still on mute. We'll figure that out. Maybe Richa, you can get started. I'll just see what's the issue.
Yeah. So, Venki, your question was regarding, how do we bridge the gap? How do we, bridge the gap between the yield and also ask the farmers, or drive the farmers somewhere, the activities that they do, towards climate resilience.
Yeah, it feels like there is some kind of a trade-off involved, as much as, we may want to not, sometimes, the trade-off seems like sometimes a difficult trade-off for a farmer when he's considering the options there, right?
Yeah. So this is where I think we are any which ways we endorse biologicals. So biologicals any which ways can play a major role where where bridging this gap is concerned. Today, what is happening is that biologicals any which way, see, biologicals are focusing majorly on plant health and soil health. Okay, so and soil health in turn, plant health, I mean, they sequester carbon and, it is the soil acts as the sink for the carbon basically. And if you have a good soil health, obviously those carbon is sequestered there, and is not released. But if the soil is damaged or there is an imbalance in soil ecology or the soil microbiome in any which way, then this carbon is released. And the other, gases as well, like, the nitrogen fertilizer, how much are we putting in? It is directly proportional to the nitrous oxide that is released as well. So biologicals, of course, can be a major driver where, climate smart practices are concerned. And government of Maharashtra, since you're talking about Maharashtra as a case study, government of Maharashtra is doing, a lot of work on these practices, on especially with taking regenerative as the basis. So regenerative agriculture, which also revolves around these sustainable practices where farming is concerned, is being promoted in a very large way, especially in various districts. Especially what I have seen is Aurangabad. I know farmers in Karzat who have around 50 acres of land and have around 20 acres under regenerative. Whereas regenerative today, we are, it's a very new concept. People feel, we cannot relate it to yield. But slowly and steadily, we are developing, use cases wherein you will see, farmers doing successful farming with a good yield, with regenerative practices, which are climate smart practices, which help you actually sequester carbon, not only sequester carbon, but, also give you a good yield. So I think that is something that is already happening, of course, at its own pace. But in a few years' time, they have tied up with big organizations like World Bank as well, which is supporting it. So we will see a bigger impact in the coming years.
One of the things I'm reminded of is in one of the panels I was participating with on biostimulant regulation. One of the entrepreneurs was trying to explain biostimulant, and he immediately resorted to a desi metaphor. He said it's like Chyawanprash, and I realized that it was a good metaphor in terms of trying to communicate the complexity, and at the same time it also underlies the challenges there, right? Because let's understand, for us there is a sense that when compared to the typical chemicals and traditional chemicals from the basic chemistry we use, these are slightly less prescriptive, in terms of
exactly.
And so that is always a challenge, right?
Yeah, that is the mindset change that we are looking for. It should not be a good to have; it's a must have. I mean, that transition needs to take place today.
Correct.
That will come with, Chyawanprash. Not everybody has Chyawanprash. Okay, it has to be a part of your dal chawal.
Correct.
That is the system change that we are looking at. Basically.
Exactly. So when we are trying to bring the Chyawanprash along with dal chawal, there has to be a system in place, right? I mean, a traditional IPM model, earlier had a certain kind of a paradigm in terms of only reducing an ecological impact. But now, how does an IPM system work in tandem with a biostimulant or there? I mean, those are another further follow-up questions that I would love to explore in terms of what kind of ways in which we are seeing these kind of IPM systems on the ground in place that kind of address, incorporating this, this Chyawanprash in the dal chawal.
Yeah, so see this. I mean,
Dr. Venkatesh, so feel free to also. I mean, I'm just asking it for everyone there. So yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Richa.
Yeah. So, so this has been this change that we have been talking about, we are, for me personally, I'm seeing this change happening as such, because when we are talking of integrated pest management or IPM, we are also integrating preventive measures here along with curative. Most of those, synthetic pesticides or chemical pesticides that we talk about are more on the curative basis. But farmers, I feel, slowly are getting into the preventive mode as well. That is where the biologicals also come in. Though, on one hand, biologicals, bio-egg, as we call it, this industry has also matured quite a bit in the last 10 years. So we do have solutions which are also curative and not just preventive. The farmer also slowly has started realizing, because the soil which he sees the yield has become pretty stagnant for that person. Okay, so he himself also is realizing, and he is looking out for options. Okay, even when you are taking a pest, suppose if I say something like a white grub, it is like there are so many chemicals which are not working well, which used to work well 6 to 7 years down the line, but not today. Because the pest has become immune, it has also evolved, along with time and, repeated applications that have been done. So they themselves are also looking out for options. And when we present those options, if they're available to them, near them and easily, so that is where, the adaptability sets in. So, that is something that I have seen things working out as well, where IPM is concerned. And also I have seen many of these, when government is giving out these crop schedules, okay, seed treatment has become a part of it now. So which is a big thing, because seed treatment with microbial bioinoculants is a technology which we have been promoting for quite some time now, which we want people to adapt, because it also, and the fact is, we don't want it to be an add-on. Okay, we want it to be a substitute, not an add-on. When we are saying that you're using biofertilizers or using an add-on, what we do tell people is that please get down with your chemical fertilizers. Do not spend the same amount of money, because then it drives the farmer away. We're not planning to do that. So that is also a part of awareness that this point also has to be has to go to the farmer. Slowly and steadily, I think it is penetrating in the farmer fabric. So we hope to see the change soon. So your thoughts on that, I think.
Dr. Venkatesh, would you like to also share your thoughts?
Yeah. See, when we look at the history from chemical farming, old conventional farming, to new industrial agriculture and chemical agriculture, our need was to feed 140 crore people. Therefore, the whole orientation was how to produce more and more. When you have already calorie security, food security, now we are moving to nutrition security. And we're looking at certain crops where farmers make good money by producing good quality. And it all started with, example, grapes exporting. Grape farmers of Maharashtra first learned what is called residue. It's nice to hear residue is now Marathi word. Honestly, 11 months of work. If it sells to export, it is 100 rupiah kilo. Or ready wala jayega 10 rupiah kilo. 11 months hard work goes from 100 to 1 log factor, we call in microbiology, 10 rupees. They real, and then it got rejected once in UK. Then they learned very well how to integrate early stage spray with low cost chemical pesticides, change over gradually to acceptable forms of products which bring in no residue or below residue. So they adopted it. Then you have tea gardens who export, again, are subjected to a lot of residue analysis. So they adopted for export gardens. I'm not talking organic here, just commercial, high volume markets. Spices, those farmers adopted it. Chili, they did not adopt, but big buyers like AVT, Synthite, ITC, they're incentivizing farmer by giving 10 rupees kilo more per kilo if there's no residue of ABC chemicals. That makes the farmer to adopt the technology. How do I produce with no poison in a finished product? Now Basmati, a lot of rejections have started happening, and our Punjab farmers will realize they will realize and suffer 1 year, but you will see a great change happening. Now, if a farmer in Basmati grows a residue-free agriculture crop, I'm sure the same farmer will know how to grow for Kamnan, our regular dal also, chawal also. that will have a ripple effect in terms of, growing a better quality. So residue management is the first awareness with the export farmer, drifting towards slowly layer by layer to high quality local consumption commodity. Then
Yeah.
comes residue, but thereafter comes the resistance management. This is another area where biologicals are. Root grubs, Richa gave a classic example, white grubs. Today, farmers have realized not much solution available in chemical pesticides at all. So wherever they're trying a biological solution for white grub or root grub management, they're finding, like not gray, black and white difference basically. So the adoption of technology is happening, example, in white grubs. So it will grow. In case of nematodes, most farmers who know about nematode know that there is no chemical solution. So they're coming to biological solution. Then soil. Soil health and the root development is a very known subject to farmers. When we talk to same farmer, look, improve your root system. Improve the ecosystem around the root system, root zone. Look, there's a difference it makes by seed treatment, very, very well quoted earlier, seed treatment or soil microbiome improvement in the root zone. So like this, layer by layer, we are going to expand and the orbit is getting expanded slowly. And I'm sure this residue management and resistance management, these two are going to be important driving factors for balancing the chemical inputs with biological inputs and the practices and the way a farmer thinks. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic comment in terms of what your insight that you're bringing in terms of expanding the gamut. Starting from residue management, which when we go down to the ground reality terms, and that's where extension services come, and that's where also to a large extent digital platforms come in. So I want to bring in Vinay here. Vinay, we've discussed this also a lot of times on the field, our field visits, right? Today, one of the fundamental reasons where some of these nuances aspects of residue management is because they are not captured in the system, right? Today, a post-harvest indicators, they are not captured in the system adequately. So
Right.
how do you think the platforms that largely manage the crop schedules and are evolving to accommodate the changing needs in terms of residue management?
Right. So I think from a farmer perspective, this still continues to remain as a crop schedule. But what we've done in platforms, and these are platforms which are available in the US, and what we are doing at KhethiBuddy also is that each activity basically has three broad areas which it actually impacts. One is in terms of how much residue it is actually doing. So for example, if you're applying a specific pesticide, there are two factors. One is that how much residue it's throwing out. Second is that when are you applying it? It's the PHI in terms of at what interval it is actually being applied. What we are doing in tech platforms is that each and every activity as the farmer is doing, based on the input which is actually putting in, we are automatically computing the MRL, right? So that sort of becomes an auditable, ready report, which then gives him the confidence to actually do the ground truthing in terms of the residue report. So a lot of export farmers are today basically using that report as a ready report to then go and do the testing, because see, all this residue level testing is very expensive today. So for example, just to give you a Eurofin testing for export to Europe would cost anywhere between 10 to 14K, right? So it's not something which everybody can do that. But today, even the buyers want to be sure that if they want to spend that money, they want to be actually be sure that they are in a position that this test goes through, right? So what these tech platforms will help you do is that, already compute this based on the activity which we are doing. So for every activity which is actually happening on the crop schedule management, we are computing the residue level. We are also, some residues, some pesticides are acceptable if you are actually applying it X number of days before the harvest, right? But not, if you actually do that just a few days before the harvest, all his hard work can actually go for a toss if he intends to export, right? So basically, like Richa said, that we are trying to simplify it, tell the farmer if he's trying to apply a particular pesticide, before X number of interval, that you cannot do that if your intention is to actually do to export. So he continues doing what he's doing, but create an awareness through the system, through notifications, to ensure that, what residue is being thrown, which is there. And along with that, an extension to that is basically the carbon ledger as well, right? So in terms of what's the debit or credit of each and every activity. So for example, if you're applying just compost, or if you're activating microbes in the soil, what is the carbon sequestration which can actually happen, right? And then mapping this to the auditing agency. So for example, your clean development methodology, your Veras VM0042, or your gold standard methodology, mapping it to this. So again, this is actually auditable ready. So multiple smallholder farmers, if this data is ready, then it becomes easier for this to be actually audited.
I want to bring in Vijay Kolikar here. Are you able to hear us, sir?
Kolikar sir, are you able to hear us now? You're
Yeah,
on mute.
I can hear.
You're on.
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah. So no, we were just sort of bringing in the Maharashtra from the sense of based on the some of the updates are seeing in the World Bank Climate Resilience Fund. We were trying to get a sense of how do you see this project has evolved over time. How has been the farmers' response, and because you work in the administrative layers, do you see now the regulatory ecosystem also adapting in with the kind of developments that are happening on the ground?
Yeah, you are right that now there is all the regulatory authorities, right, from the state level, even for national level. We are very much keen on developing or designing the policies which will definitely help farmers to build resilience at farm level. Of course, to go at farm level is a very tough challenge, you may say, because whatever the weather parameters and weather availability is happening at district level, we can calculate, we can quantify it. But to go at the village level, it's become difficult. But as this project has been designed in such a way that we are now very much in a position to assess the vulnerability of the villages, and even among the village also, we can now assess who the farmers, what farming systems are also vulnerable to which particular parameters. Like example, water scarcity or soil health, something like that. So we are going that downscaling all our operations at that level. We are happy to share that this project has been very much popular now among the farming communities since last 4 years. We have reached to 12 lakh plus farmers. Though all the farmers have registered on our portal, based on their capacities to invest on their farming system, around 5 lakh farmers have been availed the benefit of the project to the tune of around 2,800 crores, and that we have transferred on their bank linked account, Aadhaar linked bank accounts to our DBT system. That is one way of telling the story of this project. Another thing is that the building resilience at that level, the communication and the extension work which is happening at the ground level, that is now also gaining a momentum. How the way we are getting more and more knowledge data sets with us, we are strengthening our extension and delivery system so that the farmers can get real-time advisories, real-time knowledge about weather, about their water condition, soil moisture condition, and also nutritional database of the soil. And based on the crop requirement, they can design this thing. So this way, we are working through since last 4 years. This year, of course, with the help of some of the startups like KTBD and other institutions, we are also now doing very some of the robust mechanisms we have to develop at that level, so that farmers can have access to the advisories at a granular level. So this way we have reached now. Yeah, it is of course getting confidence at that level. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Which is interesting to see the kind of growth there with 5 lakh there. I'm curious to also explore this question of the effectiveness of some of these methods, in terms of be it biological products there. have the farmers been able to assess the effectiveness and also communicating back to the system in terms of how well these programs there? And you also talked about at a level of downscaling with value chains there. So at a value chain, how are they able to get a higher price in the market with the produce that has followed through these practices? What has been the downscale impacts on this?
Yeah. To begin with, our earlier first query, the farmers now they're realizing the importance of the soil fertility. That is a very, you can say, encouraging thing for us. Beyond, you can say, water, they are now reaching to the soil health. So that must, the impact of the some of the soil health initiatives what we have taken through our conservation agriculture practices or regenerative agriculture practices, that has been seen on ground on the farmers who adopted it. Now, going ahead with the value chain, we are supporting the small help groups as well as the farmer producer companies to strengthen their value chain so that they can have, gain the good bargaining capacity ability in the markets. And this around 3,000 such APOs, farmer producer organizations, including the SHGs, have been supported by the project, and now they are in good position to. There are 3-4 categories you can say in value chain. We are focusing on aggregation of the commodities at village level, you can say decentralized storages. So they are responding well in that. There we are again focusing on creating, establishing custom hiring centers so that farm mechanization can be taken care of by the group as instead of going for individual mechanization efforts. So that's also gaining momentum. And the third way is the primary processing, or you can say initial processing part of the value chain, value addition. So that is also been supported. So this way they are now in the chain, and how they are impacted. I mean, how they are benefited. These two storages, they could overcome the market price shocks during the glut season. So they are able to store their product for 3-4 months, and then they can sell it. So they are doing it now, and we are giving a good. We're getting good reports from them, feedback from them that they are getting the good prices when they are they could store the product for at least 2-3 months. So this way they are you can be coping with this market shocks and this climate resilience with the market resilience also even there at that level.
It's important. I mean, now at a time, it almost seems like market resilience is far more important and pressing issue than climate resilience. And I wonder if if we are also building systems and platforms, at a business level that kind of address some of these aspects, right? Because ultimately, if he doesn't get a good price, none of the efforts that we're putting in is not anyway going to help in there. So this is interesting there, and I also want to touch a little bit on both Dr. Venkatesh and Dr. Richa is also on the regulatory scene right now, right? Now, because initially there has been some kind of criticism that we initially brought the regulations that were working in the traditional synthetic chemistry and then brought them in the biological. And so now with the biostimulant guidelines, some of these are changing. But maybe if you could also, maybe to the attendees and to the people, share a little bit on how the evolution of the regulation has been in India. Because today, for large, some of the startups that I talk to, they often tell that to register, it takes quite a lot of time, to kind of go through the process. So how is that shifting in at the current scenario?
Thank you, Vicky. Let me put 3 categories. Let's see what we call biofertilizers. First thing, a wrong word. Farmer thinks we're giving fertilizer. So it's our mistake and regulatory mistake. We should call them soil inoculum or beneficial soil organism, some other word. The moment I say, well, sir, how much urea I can bring down? How much DAP I can bring down? That's one way. Second, the regulatory was brought in 1985 guidelines under Essential Commodities Act, and it's called Fertilizer Control Order. And we are seeing hoarding the product. Long queue is outside my factory waiting for it. I'm doing black marketing it. All these are connotations coming under FCO, under Essential Commodities Act. And biofertilizers, unfortunately, were brought under this FCO. If I've got a fear of getting arrested on Friday and don't get produced to court on Saturday and Sunday, only Monday afternoon I'll come out of police lockup. What is the incentive for me to take risk in a marketplace and put my IP in a marketplace? Not one multinational, not one big company has come forward to promote biofertilizers in last 60 years, 50 years, just because this Damocles sword hanging on the head all the time. Our government talks about decriminalization of small mistakes. And what is quality is called misbranding here. The reduction of quality is poor count, blah, blah, blah. It is subject to 3 years jail sentence. Nothing has changed. Therefore, from the government, the fear is always there on the biofertilizer aspect. It is not decriminalized. 2, many parameters of value of the parameter quality parameters are still 1985, means 40 years old. Now come to biopesticides. Biopesticides are, luckily government has given funds to certain agencies like Indian Institute of Horticulture Research, Oilseed Research. They have come out with a dossier, and the Central Insecticide Board, our regulatory, accepts it. So hundreds of small farm manufacturers also have been able to get registration of Trichoderma, Pseudomonas, and many other products, which come under public data system, which is very welcome change which government has made. We really, as industry, appreciate this thing, and we request government to put more and more products and in the helping the farmers that way. Now, if a company wants to introduce a biopesticide on their own, a small company really cannot really do it. It is very difficult, but very expensive. For a foreign company, another problem. They think they should get registration directly with insecticide board. But we have a very well written, documented National Biodiversity Authority. NBA says first come here. It's a gateway for India. Then go to any other agency where you are applicable. So, but many companies do not go to, importing companies do not go to MBA, they directly go to CIB and get an answer no. And they say, oh, it's very difficult, India regulated, nothing difficult. We are like any other country. We welcome level playing field, but most multinationals are used to Europe and America where biodiversity authorities do not exist. 190 countries have signed Nagoya Protocol. How many countries have set up the biodiversity authority? So they want to have patented molecule, patented bioculture. So I want to be in the market. This is another reason why they don't come here. Now come biostimulant. Applications of very different kind. Microbes are considered to be good. Many microbes do not come under pesticides category, biopesticides, do not come under biofertilizers. There are PGPRs, many other bacteria. Our government considers no, bacteria are not microbes as a whole, will not come under biostimulants. And the officer says, I will not allow. I will not allow. The preamble of the Gazette notification says including microorganisms. But notifications later on, no, I will not allow. So industry associates have been requesting, cajoling government, please include a broad-banded biostimulants. Okay, and then many unreasonable data requirement. But anyway, we have been seeing extension of this implementation by 1 year. Today we saw another circular, 1 more year. So the biostimulants, the dialogue with industry, dialogue with stakeholders is not really adequate. So we have been requesting as associations to engage all of us, stakeholders, to improve regulation. We all want regulatory. We want regulatory, we want an umbrella, a quality system, quality assurance mechanism, quality monitoring mechanism, but then it has to be rational. So we have a sort of these 3 aspects of the different scenarios, and right from 3-year jail sentence of Essential Commodities Act. We come under Essential Commodity Act. We take pride in outside our factory, the queue is there. I'm hoarding, black marketing. What, Richa? How many bungalows you have constructed in Pune? That is the thing. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the intent was here is to sort of also look at some of the challenges in terms of for us to move ahead there, because I was talking to another an entrepreneur who's manufacturing biostimulant, and her point of view was interesting that actually when you contrast the EU biostimulant guidelines with India, at least there are the mode of action and some of them where some of the guidelines seen a little more progressive there. So I think we still, while there are certain aspects there, but I think we still have a long way to evolve in there. I think this is a fairly we've attempted to create a fairly comprehensive view of the entire ecosystem here. Now now would be the time to get into Q&A, or we still have some more time to ask you more questions.
There are a lot of Q&As coming in, so
yeah, I see a lot of familiar faces and names in the attendees with there.
So we can take a few Q&A and then sort of conclude, Venki. So
okay, all right.
This might be for Richa or Dr. Venkat. How do we see creating a balance between organic and inorganic inputs going forward? This is by Shivendra Kumar.
So maybe I can put in my view, and then sir, you can add in as well.
Yeah.
So yes, this is an interesting question, and this is a challenge that we have been facing for quite some time now, because agriculture or farming for a farmer, like inorganic fertilizers, synthetic fertilizers, is the main component which drives yield. This is the sentiment which you normally see when you go on farms. But there can be it is very much possible to have a balance between organic and inorganic, or biologicals is the word that I would like to use here, because biologicals is what enhances or the usage of inorganics even when you add it into the field. So biologicals, whether you add it externally or they are present in your soil, they are the main drivers of which drive the utilization of the inorganic material that has been put into the soil. So it is just a matter of having that mindset of we feel, or a farmer feels that if I put in 5 bags of urea or DAP, that is what is increasing the yield. No, that's not the case. Normally it's the microbes which are breaking it down and making it available to the plants. And so that is the reason why a balance of biologicals and inorganic is something that will drive your yield in a better way and a more climate resilient way, is what I feel. Doctor, if you would like to pitch in here as well.
Thank you, Risha. See, we have a very peculiar agricultural situation. Farmer can go and dig the borewell wherever he or she wants. No license required. After digging irrationally, manmani bolte na Hindi mein, then I get a power connection. In my state, I'm a farmer. 24/7 free power. So free water, I got free power. On top of it, 6 rupiya urea kilo. $80 per ton. Global price $800 per ton. As long as 245 rupees bag of urea available, my as a farmer, I will dump urea to see green. Tomorrow morning, insect will like it, lay eggs, and more pests, and pesticide company happy, different matter. But today I'm happy. So as long, and this is again, exchequer, 2 lakh crores, God knows how many lakh crores we lost track of subsidy on this. So when in this situation, and then where is the incentive for a farmer to think, I should use judicious use of nutrient, judicious use of water. There's no incentive or disincentive. There's no carrot, there's no stick. I'm left alone in my blue ocean. I can use as much urea as I want, dig wherever I want. This is not leading to a sustainable practice in agriculture. But it's a sort of a holy cow subject. We can't talk louder. Because 33 lakh tons of urea, 33 million tons of urea is no joke to sell at 6 rupees. 33 million tons we're talking here. And free water, free electricity. Now, where is the climate resilience in my mind has to come as a farmer? So I will only eat dal chawal every day. Not because both are free. Vegetables, no, I will not spend money. Fruits, nahi chahiye. Pulses, nahi chahiye. Why? These two are free for me. So when we say what is conventional agriculture to biological input, is this scenario. A farmer doesn't have the carrot or stick to integrate these practices into agriculture. So unless we have this structural change happens, pay realistic price to input, get realistic free market price to output. use water judiciously, pay for it. Then we can think of the real sort of balancing approach towards what is called conventional or the integrated practice. This is my take. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, just 2 days back, India submitted its response to WTO on how much India is able to provide support on market protection, because as per the WTO rules, that you can't go beyond 10% of protection there. So we just answered it in a certain sense, and that is the trap we are in a certain sense. We are answerable to these external regulations, and so we keep continuing the system along. So yeah, I mean, it's a never-ending chakra view, where the Abhimanyu has gotten in but doesn't know how to go out. We'll take in the next questions. I think Praval Bajpai is asking, the biologicals input market is majorly driven by trade profits leading to the sale of spurious products to the farmers. How can this challenge be addressed, apart from the gradual awareness increase farmers? Yeah. I mean, recently there was also an announcement that we talked about, how in biopesticides, all heavy metals, everything has been added. So yeah, I think it's an important question. Dr. Richa or Dr. Venkatesh?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just put in a few points and then maybe, sir, you can add in as well. Probably, yeah, you are right. I mean, that is one of the, challenges that we faced as well initially, because, competing with people who have already brought in, spurious products, bogus products, it really was a challenge to convince the farmer to get into the quality, and that is one of the challenges that this industry actually faces, that the availability of quality products in the market to the farmer, or identification of what is a good product, the criteria of being a good product. The farmer, few people are aware, few people are, the awareness still is lacking, where the quality checks at a consumer end are still it is a challenge. Even manufacturers like us are facing these challenges, wherein somebody puts in a product which probably does not match the quality parameters which are required to yield good results, but still are existing in the market due to a better marketing strategy probably. But I would say that this is where the government also has set in and has put in, if you go into if you study the FCO out there, the FCO has very clearly mentioned the parameters that need to be matched before you put product in the market. So those kind of, we at our end are also trying to take it to the farmer as to how they can recognize a bogus product from a quality product. But yes, that is, I would like slightly agree there that is a bit of a challenge that we are facing, and whatever little bit that we can do at our end, certain efforts are being put from our end as well, and we hope to see the results. But what I have also seen is that once the farmer community starts using the product, and they see the results, that is the time that then they also get into how the product is, or the product labels basically, and that is where it works for us basically. Once they start knowing the labels, reading the labels, that is where it helps us spread the product as well. So yeah, so that is a challenge that we are facing, and we are trying to address it in our own way. So I think.
Yeah, and I think you brought in from a product perspective from the labeling there. I mean, before, with your permission, Dr. Venkatesh, I would also bring in Vinay's input in this time, because see, today from a traceability systems, right, this has been a perennial problem. I mean, in few days from now, Telangana government is doing some work on seed traceability, and we see this problem, right? Seed traceability was launched several years back, and this problem keeps repeating there. So what is the gap in the traceability systems that makes this a very perennial problem?
See, there are two things, right? One is, on the quality of the traceability on the, on the product itself, right? So, for example, the microbes, few things, few pointers which we are actually creating even on the tech platform while we are tracing is in terms of whether it's CFU count, whether it is a few things which on the input part, so that you are actually using the right inputs with the right count. And farmers today are aware, they don't know what 10 raised to 10 or 10 raised to 8 means, but they ask that, right? Because that's something which is there. Second is actually in terms of the traceability challenge is that if you are not looking at a tamper-proof traceability, it's like a general report, right? Today you do provide seed harvest to seed tracking. It also creates a report in terms of what fertilizers which are actually used. But at the end of the day, it's actually a standard report which can be actually broken in. So what we are doing obviously is actually trying to build a blockchain ledger which can not be tampered in. But if you ask me, this is tried today being used more by B2B enterprises than the farmer themselves, right? So if you ask me, the traceability awareness and the need today is more for the organization buying the produce than the ones, in terms of at a farm level, which is there. But obviously the tech platforms, what we are trying to do is that whatever they are putting in, they are actually into a logged ledger, and then that is the way this can be traceable. But more than traceability, I think that, like what Richa and Dr. Venkatesh said, is that we are trying to simplify the message of biologicals, right? Like, what are the easy indicators to know good versus bad biologicals, right? In terms of whether it is the count, the way you look at the color, once you actually mix, what are the potential possible results on growth indicators? These are few things which can quickly identify. And at least in Maharashtra, I have seen that, because we did biologicals from 2010, and I'm sure Dr. Venkatesh should agree that in the earlier years, we used to spend an hour explaining them what biologicals is. And then you would say, अच्छा ये है, ये हमको नहीं चाहिए, या फिर हम ये समझा नहीं सकते या बेच नहीं सकते. From that to today, people ask that आपके पास biologicals में क्या है, So there is definitely, obviously awareness is actually an ongoing exercise, but there is definitely a change which I see.
Regarding quality, I always say, as long as currency note available, counterfeit is always there. That's why judges are there, court is there, police is there. So there's no industry where there's no counterfeit. There's no industry where there's no substandard. Our Crop Life Association, leading multinationals associations, say more than 3,000 crore of pesticides are counterfeit, it seems. Our whole biological industry is not even 2,000 crores. So why put an owl on our face and say you're counterfeit, so much spurious? Let the industry mature. Farmers are paying money, they know what to buy. I cannot cheat a farmer every day. One day I can cheat. And if I'm leading associations, leading multinationals are suffering or enjoying 3,000 crores spurious pesticides, and telling bio is bad, regulated. Everywhere there is that good people, everywhere there are bad people. So it's the farmer who has to judiciously use where to buy, what to buy. So brand awareness of a company, awareness of practice is happening quite considerably. And we are finding repeat purchase of quality farmers who identify which products are good, which are having quality. There'll always be evolving market. There'll always be a problem. We have to face it, but then we grow as a whole. Thank you.
Yeah, and in my field experience, I've seen that it's not the farmers who often get cheated. Farmers like sasta charunra chalega. So, and the retailer also, complies and with that. So, I mean, which is a follow-up question I would love to bring into Mr. Kolikar sir. If you see from a regulatory perspective, right, be it what happened in Sri Lanka or in Netherlands, where they tried to go down, completely move away from pest chemicals, and there, in a kind of an Indian setup, how this kind of a transition to reduce there is being looked at maybe if you could just share some light on that in terms of how this kind of transition is happening in our kind of a context there. Maybe that will also be add an additional aspect there, because we are talking about bio and at the same time we're also talking about curious pesticides. While we are talking about trying to reduce the number of usage of synthetic pesticides.
See, as I said earlier, the compulsion to produce quality fruit or vegetable is only today with farmer who exporting, an grape farmer who exports, tea garden who exports, spices who export. Other than these three segments, there is no compulsion for a farmer to produce so-called compliant quality. Because on the bandi, 60 rupees dozen I'm paying for a banana. 60 rupees dozen banana, what quality can I ask him and what will he give me delivered? Tell me. Okay.
You're delivering a lot of truth bombs today, Dr. Venkatesh.
Pardon?
You're delivering a lot of truth bombs that may be very uncomfortable for many people who don't know the ecosystem.
Yeah, and then when a farmer, as if I'm getting 2 rupees kilo for a watermelon, who is rescue? Nobody rescues me for 2 rupees watermelon kilo. Papaya 3 rupees again. Therefore, but same farmer, when I export grapes from Nashik to Europe, I get 90 rupees, 100 rupees. As I said, residue has become Marathi word now. But residue hai kya? Pre-harvest interval kya hai? A Marathi farmer uses this because he knows the value of 100 rupees grapes. So unless we give value to a producer for quality, producer doesn't have incentive to produce a good quality. It means he will not buy my product. The same farmer, he buys 2 months before harvest for export farmer, invariably buys a biological product, invariably sprays. Every tea garden exporting definitely uses. So because he gets value for it. You will see 1 year, 2 years from now, huge market will develop in basmati rice as the rejection increases for residue, they'll come back. So then ripple effect starts thereafter to other rice, other vegetables. So as of now, the farmer has no incentive other than export farmer who gets paid for the quality. Other than that, whatever bhashan we make, use bio, use residue, all that, nahi. For a farmer who produces rice, cotton, normal vegetables, sprayed at 8, brinjal, 6 p.m. sprayed, 8 p.m. harvested, 11 p.m. night, the market, 2 o'clock night, auction, 5 o'clock khali, nothing is there, 7 o'clock go and buy and eat it. Now, how do you control? It's impossible to control because there is no market channel for a farmer to produce and sell that particular quality which a consumer willing to pay.
No, and also, I mean, very recently there was data about how it is actually MP which is leading the country in terms of the most land in organic and regenerative. So I think to a certain extent there are certain policies that are coming up that are encouraging it. And I looked at the data on Maharashtra also. I think after MP, if you see the number of data wise, you see from MP, then Gujarat, and then comes somewhere down the line comes Maharashtra there. So I think we are seeing a lot of more at least state emphasis, like in the recent, we talked about in the recent budget also. There has been talk about trying to bring natural farming and change this there, so that at least, because today the consumers who are wanting organic are willing to pay easily. I mean, in my house we pay a amount from humongous amount for an organic food. It's just largely the consumer behavior. So I think that kind of a transition with the bio can happen. Then perhaps some of the price may go back to the farmers and we may be able to get the value there. I think there's another question. There is, due to rice cultivation, there's an alarming increase in GHGs there. Can biologicals address this problem?
Yeah. So, sir, you're right. A lot of, due to these paddy fields, a huge amount of methane is released, in the atmosphere, and people are trying to see if we can find, some solution to that. Yes, there is a way where biologicals also can play a role, like, it is a process of methanogenesis that is happening out here. So what can happen or what can be done is also the use of methanotropes, which will break down methane these can be used, and some of the trials at some places are already on with these. But personally, if you ask me, I feel that methane is normally generated only in fields which are waterlogged. So if we have rice fields, without waterlogging, if we are able to shift that cultivation technique to maybe drip irrigation or on bed sowing, that is something that can be a more adaptable solution which we can look at. And let me tell you, I think at least I know that government of Maharashtra is working in a big way where they are trying to divert the farmers from waterlogged cultivation to dry cultivation of rice. So I think that is something that can work out.
And there's a lot of carbon credits also going on the alternate wet and drying programs for rice cultivation. So I think some developments are going happening there. I mean, your point on methanotrops and this is very interesting there, because today, right now, there's also, slightly to just, bring in another aspect there, right? Because of the cattle feeds, and there has also been that impact is also there. So do you think the impact on livestock on the methane in an Indian context is largely, is worth considering there, or how do you see that?
Well, not really. I mean, yes, it is a known fact that, methane emissions, livestock rearing does lead to methane emissions. But if you see in the larger scheme of things, I think there are bigger issues that we can address at this point of time, especially where the Indian scenario is concerned. Because, livestock rearing is not a bigger market as compared to what they have in, the Western countries. So I think we have bigger issues which we can tackle before we tackle that one.
Okay. I'll bring to another question to Vinay. I missed out earlier. How fintech can help in climate smart and sustainable agriculture? I think you talked about carbon credits in the large extent. Maybe if there are any elements from a fintech angle which is not covering from a which goes beyond carbon credits, maybe you could elaborate there.
See, fintech, multiple use cases of fintech, especially for climate change. One, definitely, I mean, if you look at this entire project, speaking on behalf of Kolekar, sir, is that the entire project of World Bank, okay, which is primarily encouraging farmers to take credit, or use, finance to actually use some of the equipments to make efficient use of climate resilience. Like, that's point number one. Point number two is access to credit, because see, even if for you to register to a carbon credit program, the farmer needs to practice this for at least 3 years to be eligible for it, right? And what the farmer is actually keen on knowing is that what if something goes wrong? What's the insurance, right? On those things which are there. So that's an area where, again, fintechs can play a role in terms of supporting them on all of it. Then all the kind of equipments which would actually help in climate resiliency, so that's what Pokhara is doing, whether it is actually drip irrigation, sprinklers, all of this, they all need finance. And, while government is doing it through these World Bank projects, private fintech players can also actually come in, in terms of doing it. And what fintech players want is actually sort of access to this data in terms of which farmers need, what kind of finance which is there, and what kind of credit facilities. So I think that, there are multiple use cases, I would say that, and some of them are already in play in the market.
Yeah, I mean, with the kind of wet march that we saw and the way it put the PMFBY scheme in disarray, I think some of the use cases that you're pointing out are very essential in terms of how do you design crop insurance.
Right.
We have about a minute almost to the end of the panel. I think it was a fantastic discussion. I really enjoyed it. There were a few interesting aspects that was like a light bulb moment for me. Thank you, Dr. Venkatesh, for dropping a lot of truth bombs with sincere honesty. And thank you, Dr. Richa, and it was really interesting to see various aspects of some of the transition that all of us are trying to go in. I mean, I see Manohar, I see so few familiar faces from the attendees also who are all part of the larger biological ecosystem. Trying to bring in the shift there. So I guess we have an interesting pathway ahead in these current times with climate change coming now, staring at us in much more in a more visceral form and like a Damocles sword, like what Dr. Venkatesh was saying. So I hope we move in further there, and over to you, the organizers. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Venki, for organizing it, and Dr. Venkatesh and Richa and Kolekar sir. I know it's been a very, very busy schedule for you, but taking out time to look at it. I think we covered a lot of topics, but this is just the beginning of the of the regular webinars we will do. There are some questions which we have not answered, but which we will actually address over email. I thank you all for this wonderful session.
Yeah, and yes, my apologies. I missed out Dr. Kolekar sir there because I wasn't sure if you were able to receive it in there. So yeah, your insights come from a government perspective in terms of how the state of Maharashtra is bringing in. It's essential because oftentimes we entrepreneurs, we forget the role of the institution of government when the kind of changes that we bring in. So my sort of sudden forgetting can probably explain to that fact, but nevertheless, thank you very much, sir, for bringing bringing an important perspective to talk about the administrative levers that are working on the ground. So thank you, gentlemen. That's all for today, and we hope to see some of you in these conversations further ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.